You are listening to the Disney Dream Girls, and this is show number 355 for Sunday, the 21st of March, 2021.
Where dreams begin.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls. My name is Michelle Young, and together with my jolly good chum Jane Phapps, we are your guides to the place where dreams begin. Sadly, no Jane this week, but we have an amazing trip report, so let's get on with this week's show.
Where dreams begin.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls, and I have with me my very dear friend, podcast listener, previous guest and wholehearted Disney Star Wars fan, Anthony Markham. Hello, Anthony.
Well, hello, my dear. How are you today?
I am all the better for speaking to you, my gorgeous one.
Aw, same. Wonderful way to start my day with you.
Well, we're going to share some Disney with everybody today because you've been on a recent Disney trip. So just to refresh our memory a little bit, tell us a little bit about your Disney. When did you first go to the theme parks? Which parks have you been to? And what is your favourite thing?
Well, first trip, I was either 7 or 8. That was the only time I went as a child. And then my love for Disney really kicked in when I was an adult. Started more with the Run Disney events, but no longer runner, but still love the theme parks. I've only been to Disneyland and Walt Disney World. I was supposed to go to Disneyland Paris with you last summer. You know, the park will still be there. We'll get there one day. I am a current Disney World pass holder.
Hang on a minute. I thought that pass ran out.
Well, you know, I went for that last minute trip and they offered me a good deal. And how can you say no when they dropped the price $300?
Wow.
So you know what that means.
You've got some trips planned.
Well, one, yes. Going in May.
Ooh.
Yes. First time with the boyfriend. He's been before, but it's been a while. I'm the more hardcore Disney fan, though. So for adult who hasn't been to the parks in a while, where would you recommend staying, Michelle?
Ooh, first trip with boyfriend as well. Ooh, this is a tricky one because my mantra at the moment is probably go pop, just purely because of it's nice and cheap and you have got the option of the transportation as well. But then if you're wanting to have some sort of like time away from the park, pop's a little bit in your face type thing, isn't it? So I'd be looking at something a little bit more luxurious, a little bit more enjoyable, and harking back to memories of, gosh, was it 2013 when we met up at the Animal Kingdom and had a couple of nights there?
We did, yes. So you're hitting some of my considerations right on the head. First, I tried the DVC rental route just to kind of have a little bit more of an upscale experience at a slightly cheaper cost. But the only options that I could find were Saratoga Springs.
Ugh.
My thoughts exactly. Yeah. So I reached out to my favorite travel agent. And she came back with a list of options, including, okay, so here we go. All-Star, oh gosh, is it movies that's getting ready to reopen? I think so. Spoiler, I didn't even consider it, as you can tell by the way
I just didn't even want to say, please, for heavens above, don't choose to take your partner for the first time to All-Star movies. You'd never get him back in a theme park.
Right, Pop Century. We had 3 different options at Coronado, including the tower, and what was I think she also offered us Saratoga Springs. Like you said, Pop Century it is. It's the transportation part, really.
Yeah.
Coronado's buses are just not sufficient, particularly for that resort being so large nowadays, in my opinion. So Pop it is. Good job, Michelle.
I have psychic powers, and do you know what? I'd rather get 3 or 4 trips in at Pop rather than one at the high-end level. You know what I mean?
Yes. And honestly, like the monorail resorts now, I just don't see the appeal. There's not even a station at Poly, and I don't know. There's no appeal to a fireworks view because, let's face it, they're not happening and probably won't for a while.
True. And for me, if I'm going to be in the theme parks, I don't want to be paying all that money for a hotel room I'm not going to stay in.
Precisely.
You know, the whole point of staying somewhere luxurious is to enjoy the facilities rather than to be out 14 hours a day in a theme park.
Right. And we're only going for 5 days, so it's going to be a heavy focus on the parks themselves. So,
Okay.
you know, save a little money with the hotel. Let's have some more fun experiences in the parks.
So what's the dates in May?
May 19th through the 23rd. We're actually going to fly, which I don't normally do, but I have a large credit from when I was supposed to come see you with American Airlines. I know, rub salt in the wound. I'm sorry.
Stop mentioning it. Anyway.
Yes, dear.
It sounds magical, and I hope you will share it with everybody because there is nothing I love more than hearing about people's pre-trip planning, their time during their trip, and then a good old trip review. And that's basically what you're going to tell us about today, because when did you go on this last trip?
I just got back 2 weekends ago. It was meant to be the final trip in my annual pass. It was just basically a long weekend. I live about 8.5 hours from Orlando, so I can leave out Thursday evening and be at the parks on Friday morning.
Wow.
With this trip, I met our mutual friend Josh from Tennessee, and we had 3 days in the parks together, and then I went back one day on my own. We did Hollywood Studios our first day. Second day, we did Animal Kingdom, and third day was Epcot. The fourth and final day, I went back to Hollywood Studios by myself.
Okay, so let's dig into Hollywood Studios and tell us a little bit about how your day started, what time it started, and what was your priorities for the day.
Well, with Hollywood Studios, your day must start at 7 a.m. because you've got to try to get in that virtual queue. Josh has amazing luck at it. I can never get it. Or if I do, the boarding group's so high, it never works out for me. So Josh did it. Shout out to Josh. All right. So we made a beeline for Runaway Railway. That queue line being in the direct sun, we wanted to go ahead and knock it out. Had a great ride on that one. Then we went down Hollywood Boulevard, getting onto Rock and Roller Coaster. We even had a first time with the Racing Academy. I had never even been in that building before. But, you know, it was one of those things. It's when you have an annual pass, you do something new each time you go. So it was cute. It was nice to sit down for a few minutes and check my Instagram.
Yeah.
The little kids loved it, though.
No.
But then we made our way back to Galaxy's Edge. They have a new really fun photo pass opportunity where you can pose with your baby Yoda. So that's a good little magic moment they can make back there. But while we were there, we did Smugglers Run, and just so happened it was time for our Rise of the Resistance boarding pass. It is still a phenomenal riding experience, but due to social distancing and how they have to space you in the first pre-show room, we were unfortunately in an area where we couldn't see all the animatronics, but still highly recommend the experience. The rest of the day, we worked back through Tower of Terror. We had food at Baseline Tap House. I finally dined at Docking Bay 47 for the first time.
Ooh, what did you have?
I had the roasted chicken dish. It came with a kale salad, quinoa. I was trying to be healthy, and a herb vinaigrette. That was nice to have a break from the normal park fare. I'd been eating at ABC Commissary, of course, Backlot Express. So I'm glad Josh convinced me to try Docking Bay 47. I wanted to go through some of the shops in the shopping area in Galaxy's Edge, but for example, Doc Ondar's is such a small area. The queue line, I was going to have 43 people ahead of me. So,
oh man.
Yeah, so we did not do much shopping that day. As I mentioned, I had driven overnight, so I was working off of nearly 48 hours being awake by this point. So it was time to go to the hotel. And we did stay in Pop Century in the 50s section. That was our first day. Next day, bright and early, rope drop, Animal Kingdom. Where do you go, Michelle?
Well, me personally, I go to Kusafari Bakery to get something to sugar load me for the day, but that's just me. I think you're going to be telling me you're off for a particular attraction.
Of course, Flight of Passage. I hate to dispute what Mr. Lynn Testa says, as he gave us that advice before, but I still say you have to go there first. To be honest, Animal Kingdom is not going to keep anybody there all day, I don't think, right now. So it's best to knock out Flight of Passage first, and then make your way back over to Dinosaur, Everest, Safaris, and kind of work that way. We did make it a point to see the Flights of Wonder show. Josh hadn't seen the current version, the one without the characters from Up, and he really enjoyed it.
What do you think to it now they've taken away Russell and Doug?
Confession, I had never seen the Russell and Doug version.
Oh.
It never really made sense to me, and I think I missed several years in the parks because of all these knee surgeries, and then just never really wanting to go because I'd heard bad reviews about it.
Yeah.
And when I went back in September of last year, I was trying to kill time in the park, and I went and saw the show, and it reminded me of how it used to be, minus the onstage audience participation. It's really fun.
Yeah.
And there again, anything to have a chance to sit in the shade in Animal Kingdom.
Absolutely, but I just felt that the Russell and Doug bit, as much as I love those characters, I think they're great, it just was like shoehorned in, and I really wanted the star of the shows to be the birds rather than the characters, and I'm glad they've taken away that. And if I want to go see Russell and Doug, I'll go see them, and I'll go see Kevin and whatever somewhere else, but don't shoehorn them into something that is beautiful in its own right.
Right. Well, then you would definitely appreciate this current show.
Perfect.
Hopefully you can get out here and see it soon.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yes. But I did have a sweet treat that I think you would like in Animal Kingdom. I even took a picture of it and sent it to you.
Oh, gosh. The little cake, wasn't it?
Yes. It was themed to that new movie, Raya and the Last Dragon. But it's her little animal sidekick. It was a chocolate cake, a 5-spice mousse covered with a milk chocolate shell and coated around the outside with these little crispy chocolate pearls. And then it had a candy bit of the character's face. The baby tuk mousse. It was delicious.
I did see that. I did struggle with the whole idea of eating the face of the character, to be quite honest. I would have left that bit and eaten the rest because, one, it's white chocolate, and two, it was like, little cute Chucky cheeks.
Oh, he was adorable. I'll be sure to send the picture again. Yeah, it was just such a nice balance. The dense chocolate cake, but the light mousse. But the mousse itself, it was an unusual blend of spices. I would highly recommend, if they still have it. Who knows if they still do by the time I go again.
Yeah.
But it's just unusual, and it was actually a pretty good value. It was only $6, which in Disney prices, that's pretty good.
Okay. I do gather on this day you had a decadent delight and you went for a couple of tipples over at the Nomad Lounge. What was your opinion?
I am obsessed with that place. The drinks were phenomenal. The food was so flavorful, and I like the idea of a small plate because you don't want to feel bloated walking around the theme park all day. It seemed like each dish was handcrafted and just unusual blends of flavors that I definitely don't get, and even around here where I live, much less in a theme park. Would recommend. Thank you again, Josh, for getting us a walk-up time to go back. He had been there before. That was another thing that was completely new for me. And I know for churro fans, this one should be on your list because those fresh churros with the dipping sauces, wow. Yes, highly recommend that place. We finished up by about 3, maybe 4 o'clock that day, and then we went to Disney Springs later on that evening.
And what was your highlight at Disney Springs? Why were you wanting to go there?
Shopping, of course, my dear.
Perfect. Man after my own heart.
Yes, dear. Of course, World of Disney. We hit it at the perfect time. We didn't have to wait in line, which can be a thing nowadays. The Marketplace Co-op. I thought of you as I saw all the lovely dresses.
Don't mention them.
Did a little browsing at the Lego store. You know my taste, and
Yeah.
and had a few cocktails as we strolled around.
Sounds absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Can't beat a bit of Disney shopping.
You cannot, but we couldn't stay out too late. We had a early wake up breakfast call. Where's your favorite place to have breakfast on property?
Gonna cafe.
We got it. Like, it was a fluke of nature. Just checking the app. Dining availability. We got the first seating at Kona Cafe for that Sunday morning. I had never been. You recommended the pancakes, and they are amazing. Yes, I had a bite of Josh's, but I don't eat meat a lot, so I wanted to try the plant-based Loco Moco.
Oh.
It has plant-based eggs, plant-based sausage, coconut milk, rice, and pico de gallo. So filling and a good value, $12. Josh had the kind of the sampler platter. It had hash browns and mini pancakes and sausage and bacon. So I did sample those delicious pancakes, but had a few cocktails there as well. And that was our Sunday morning. Nice filling breakfast for what turned out to be a pretty long day over at Epcot once it opened.
Fabulous stuff. And you'd had cocktails already. What a way to start your day.
Well, it is holiday, right?
Every day's a holiday in a Disney theme park, and you don't need an excuse for the alcoholic or the sugary indulgences. So tell me a little bit about what you wanted to do at Epcot.
My dreams of a soft opening for Ratatouille are dashed yet again. October 1st.
I know. It is so mad that you've got to wait all the way to October. You know, even on your next trip, you're not going to get it in. And
No.
It's like,
And all the scuttlebutt is that it's pretty much ready to go. But I understand that, they've got to have something to hopefully draw some crowds away from Magic Kingdom on that same day. Because, which one would you choose if you were in Orlando on that day? Magic Kingdom or Ratatouille?
To be honest, I'd avoid them both.
Really? Michelle?
Well, I've already ridden Ratatouille in France, so yeah, it'd be great, but I don't want to wait in a 3-hour line for an attraction. So whilst it is an amazing attraction, I just wouldn't do that. And I'd be so stressed in the Magic Kingdom because of the crowds and it being so busy, and I'd get cranky. So I'd probably go to a different park and enjoy it being a bit quieter and leave everybody else. Because at the end of the day, if I was going to be in Walt Disney World, I'd be probably there for 2 weeks. And whether I'm there on the actual anniversary or there a week later or a day later, it doesn't really matter because I'm sure there'll be still the same merchandise.
Yeah, let's face it, it'll probably be around for 2 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to your question about Epcot. Epcot is just a good park to just soak up atmosphere. I didn't have any specific, I must do X, Y, or Z. They were setting out the topiaries for Flower and Garden Festival. This was the weekend before it started.
Okay.
So I got to enjoy some lighter crowds, but beautiful topiaries. That's the one festival I have not been able to see in person, but I will in May.
True.
Josh and I had some friends come in from Jacksonville, Florida, and we met up with them and just enjoyed the day. Walked around, had some good drinks, rode a few rides. Michelle, what do you think about the lack of animatronics on the Three Caballeros?
Oh my word. It's like, that's the best thing about going on that attraction.
It looks so bad.
Is it true? They're like cardboard cutouts.
It looks like something off the back of a cereal box. Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
man. I suppose it's better than nothing and leaving the stage blank, but oh my word.
oh, just atrocious. I Josh had told me once we were on the ride that the change had happened, but just to see it in person, I was embarrassed.
Oh, man. Did you have any nice little alcoholic tipples while you were wandering around Epcot? Is there anything you'd like to recommend?
Well, since you are in the Mexican Pavilion, you might as well stop at Cava del Tequila and pick up one for now and one for the road, as you do.
Absolutely.
Had a bite of school bread just for you and Jane.
Oh.
I mean, it's tasty, but I'm not a huge coconut fan. But at least I tried it. It was delicious. And then we went, of course, in the Italian Pavilion and had an Italian margarita. That's another must do for me. Didn't have too much of a rowdy day.
Yeah. But the bonus is when you're there as adults, you don't have any little people to worry about. And if you want to have a fair few beverages, you don't have to worry about anybody else. You can just take it as you go.
That's right. I'm sure there will be more of that for this next trip.
Absolutely. And I am just sort of saying, you've got to go over and try the Tipsy Duck in Love with the beloved because, I think that would be a perfect drink for the two of you. Nice little picture, World Showcase Lagoon in the background. Perfect memory.
That does sound lovely.
Yeah.
And we'll have to sample all the flower and garden booths, which were there but not serving. It was kind of a cruel little stab in the heart to see all those pictures of lovely food, but not be able to have any of it. Oh well, I'll report back on that.
Please do. So what did you do with your last day?
Well, last day, I was by myself. Mm-hmm. Josh's flight was relatively early, so he didn't even bother buying a park ticket. Mm-hmm. I went for one last shot at Hollywood Studios, tried for Rise of the Resistance, and according to my luck, I didn't even get a boarding group.
Oh, man.
I'm good at some things at Disney, but that's just not one of them. Let's see. What else did I do that day? Of course, Tower of Terror. Mm-hmm. I don't think you could ever get sick of that ride. It's just...
I know.
I love the way they vary the drops. I'm not going to say it beats Rise of the Resistance, but it's probably a close second in that park. I did a solo on Smugglers Run, just because the line wasn't too long. Mm-hmm. And I decided, as I was getting ready to leave, the line for Mickey's Runaway Railway had looked fairly short. It had just opened, in fact. Let me back up a bit. When I got there, the ride was having a technical glitch. Mm-hmm. And so kind of walked right past it, went on back in the park and did some other rides. I'm coming back out. Oh, the line's open, 20 minutes. Let's do it. Go ahead, get on the ride vehicle. I'm in the fourth room. Mm-hmm. And we have a ride breakdown. I got a ride evac.
Was this your first ride evac?
I believe it was. Yeah, and to have it on like such a new ride. Yeah, that was kind of cool. For people who have been on it, my ride vehicle was just starting to head over the waterfall. Wound up being in, once all the lights come on in the building, you're in an IMAX screen. You have to get evacuated from these step stools because you're higher up than you think you are in these little carts. And so we had to walk back through the rooms we had been through with all the lights on. So it was fascinating to see how black lights and the addition of wind machines and just the movement of your individual vehicles can create what you think is happening, but obviously is not in the room. I feel like a true Disney fan now, though. I've been evac. There should be a pen you should get.
Yeah.
But they gave us fast passes on your band. They could be used anywhere in the park except for Rise of the Resistance. Mm-hmm. Shocker. That you could use throughout the day. But I had decided that it was my cue that I needed to go home. So I went ahead and left, and I had been debating seriously about the cost of renewing an annual pass because let's face it, I've been able to go several trips on this pass. I think I got up to 28 days in the park, and for somebody that lives 8.5 hours away, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it is.
Then they offered almost $300 less to renew, and we don't know if they're ever going to sell annual passes again. So my friends convinced me that, well, let's be honest, I didn't need much convincing, but they nudged me into going ahead and doing it. And so, ta-da, I have another annual pass.
Oh, that is so perfect, because if I do get over there in the next year, you'll just have no excuse to not meet me.
No, ma'am. Of course I will. Yes.
And even if it's going to be next Easter, which is a possibility, you'll just have to extend it again.
Yes. Wow. Yes, ma'am. Anything for you, love.
Was there anything on this trip that grated a little bit? You know, anything that annoyed you, that you'd like to see Disney do a little bit better?
What frustrated me early with the parks in COVID ages was it felt almost at times too crowded. When I was there in December, they were at the same capacity that they are now, I believe. And at times, particularly at park opening, it can feel like a throng down your main street, down your main thoroughfare. Later in the day, the crowds disperse a bit and it's not as noticeable. I almost wish there was some kind of staged arrival time, but I don't really know how you could do that. Also, I feel a lot safer now having my vaccine. So I'm very fortunate and lucky to have that. But despite the unusual world we live in right now, I still feel very safe at Disney. I bought that annual pass in a normal world, and I had thought about getting a refund, but I'm so glad I didn't, because I've still had wonderful memories and wonderful trips in a park in the days of COVID. So if you can cope with the fact that you're not going to see fireworks, you're not going to get to give your favorite character a hug, you can wave at them though. You can take a strategically posed picture with some of them. If it's going to be your once in a lifetime trip, maybe not. But if you're a pro, go for it.
Well, that is some top information there. And I think also, Anthony, that you have the benefit of being in the parks when it was a little bit quieter than when other friends of ours has been. And they've said, oh my word, you know, President's Weekend, Valentine's Weekend, etc. But it sounds like the crowds were a little bit quieter for you.
Yes, they were. They were.
Perfect stuff. Well, all we need to do now is get our heads together, get the global pandemic over, and replan our trip to Disneyland Paris together.
That sounds fabulous. We should do it.
Yeah, let's get on to that right now. Anyway, lovelies, I just want to say thank you for Anthony for joining us this week, for giving us such a fantastic trip report on his wonderful exploits over in Walt Disney World with his friend Josh. Hi, Josh! And take care, and we will be back next week. But don't forget, you can find show notes with some of Anthony's pictures on DisneyDreamGirls.com. Find us on Instagram and Twitter at DisDreamGirls. Any questions, requests, etc., our email is info@DisneyDreamGirls.com. But until next week, it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.